We're going to talk about CSS. So HTML, as we've done already, it puts the content onto your page. But CSS is what we're going to use to actually make it look nice, look pretty, look exactly how you want it to look. In order to include the CSS page, the style sheet, there's a few different ways to do it. The first way, and here you can see I brought up my little summary, the first way is the way that we're going to be doing it, because I actually think it's neater. You create your CSS, your style sheet, in a different page, not inside your HTML file, but in a CSS file. And then you include it. You see there's a link, and then you can say that it's the style sheet, and you include here this location it happens to be. It's in a styles directory, and it's called main.css. If it was just called styles.css, then you would write that. You would write whatever name it is. If it's in a directory, you put the path. That's the way we're going to be doing it, because I happen to think it's neater when your CSS file is in a separate file than your HTML file. Another way to do it, and you might see this on other pages as well, is inside the head section of your HTML page, you can put the style tag. And inside the style tag, everything inside it is going to be exactly what would be in our main.css file, our CSS file. But instead of having it in a separate CSS file, you could, in theory, put it on top of the page in the head section, and it can look like this. We're not going to do that because, again, I actually think it's nicer when you divide your HTML and CSS into different pages. And the third way I actually think is the sloppiest way, but also it's fine. It will work, but all these ways will work. The third way is you can actually do it directly in a tag. So instead of saying, well, H1, you want it to be a certain font size, you can say style equals and 500%, so it should, the font size should be 500%, the color should be red, and you could actually put it directly in the tag. We're not going to do that. Again, I think it's harder to read on HTML pages when there's styles and attributes inside the tag itself. I also think, like the second way, I also think it's better than the third way, but I do think that it makes your HTML page really, really long, and it's easier and clearer and easier to read when it's in another page. If we go to NEIU's website, which I have up here, we can view the source, and let me show you. You can see what they did. View page source. And you can see there's a bunch of CSS files that are included. Where is it? Here, .css. You could include more than one, so they have a whole bunch. If you click on it, you can actually see the CSS. So you can click on it. Obviously, this looks a little sloppy, but yeah, in theory, you can go to any page you want, and you can see how they include their CSS. If you want to look at their CSS, you can just click on the CSS link, and you can look at all different pages and see how they do their CSS. But the way we're going to be doing web pages, which is really the way people are doing it now with CSS, is using a lot of CSS instead of HTML. Technically, a lot of things we're going to be doing in CSS, in the past, people might have done directly in HTML, but now I guess it's like this separation. Everyone is very into making everything separate. Your content is separate, your style is separate, and in the end, it actually makes it much easier for screen readers, for search engines, for everything to be able to understand how your page is working when you have this separation of concerns, when you have this HTML, the CSS, and they're both separate.